Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello there.
We've got a guest. Oh, pointing the wrong way. He's over here. There he is.
I'm just pointing at me.
It's not about
It's
you,
too
you
hard. It's too
twat.
difficult. Too difficult.
We've got Andrew in the house. He's wearing a rather
Hello,
fetching
everyone.
t-shirt there.
Hello.
Nice little.
You should say he's not actually in the house.
Well, he's in his house.
Is that still? You said he's in the house.
It might be illegal if I was in your house.
Hello, everybody. Who have we got on tonight? We've got Matt into the glory hole, which I'm assuming is also Matt. We've got VJ. We've got Wolfman Gaz, Malachi. We've got into the glory hole again. Megaloz, VJ. We've got Megaloz, Matt, and into the glory hole all on. I mean, I'm all for bumping them numbers up, frankly.
I'm intrigued. That's a third person has entered the glory hole. Hang on. Hang on. Let's just back up a bit.
I'm sure this is a two's company situation. Robin's had his hair cut. Robin's had all of his hair shorn off.
Yeah.
He's lost all of his strength.
And it's got really, it's gone really weird. I'm not sure about it. Anyway, my kids basically spent most of the day going, "Dad, you know your hair's still sticking up, don't you?"
So tonight we've got Andrew on the show, Mr. Marlowe, one of our creative directors of the channel. Andrew, you are of course famous on the Agents of Sigmar channel for creating some particularly crazy decks and some particularly funky builds that we have tried and test runned on the channel.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed them. I mean, I guess it's more like infamous the way you look at it. They're not the best decks in the world, but I'm glad you enjoyed them. So there you are.
I think that's a important point to cover, is that we do have fun playing them. We definitely have had a lot of fun playing them. I'm sure Robin will say the same. We've even had a few occasions where I think we've played a Marlowe versus Marlowe matchup.
We have. I haven't always had fun. There was one Eyes of the Nine incident which turned out to be very much not fun. I can't remember what happened there, but I do remember it being a bit of a disaster. But mostly, I've had incredible fun playing them. What I really like about it, and I suppose it's really what I wanted to talk to Andrew tonight, is that they are often completely left field to anything else that's out there. So I mean, normally you get kind of variations, but at the end of the day, they've still got combination striking, and they've still got on now. But they've still got a core of what is called the meta. They just might have a slight twist. But your decks, Andrew, are just sort of outside the box, I suppose.
That's probably why you lose every time with them. But yeah, I mean, I normally take cards which have like an interesting theme and just try and make them work. It doesn't always happen, as you found out, but a few of them turn out all right. But more importantly, they're just fun ways to play. So that's mainly how I go about it.
I think that's definitely one of the points to make when building a deck, is that whilst you can make a deck that might be, all the top most competitive sort of decks. Robin's fiddling with his mic, put it right in front of his camera. That's some brilliant placement there, Robin. Brilliant placement. Whilst you can make a deck up, and one of the ways of making a deck is to go, what are the best cards? What are just the most efficient cards? What are the top 20 cards that you want to take for that way of playing? That's only one way of building a deck, and you definitely don't always subscribe to that. You pick some real left fielders out of the deck, and create what, like you said, some really fun to play setups, and some really left field funky cards that can make things really, really entertaining, but also still they're not a million miles away from being competitive. They might not win glass, especially with Robin and I piloting them. They're certainly not going to win glass, but they are definitely fun to play with.
Well, strangely enough, none of the good cards in the game, the Eyes of the Nine, actually have. So you're a bit limited in that choice. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's like some cards, like Method in the Madness and stuff like that. You just try and make them work. It doesn't always happen. But they're just a lot of fun to play. And really, at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to achieve when you play a game. Or for me, anyway, it's just to have fun. Winning is great, but with the eyes, that's pretty rare. So
But then when you can win a game with Method in the Madness, for example, it doesn't matter if you actually win the game at all. As long as you score that objective, you can have that air of just self-satisfaction that you know you scored that card, that everyone sits there and goes, why have you got this card in your deck?
Yeah, Andrew's scoring Method in the Madness was the highlight of my Grand Clash.
I think you enjoyed that more than me.
It's just brilliant.
But it was good.
So I can never remember the specific details of Method of the Madness now, so I'm just trying to look it up quickly.
It's a 2 Glory Surge if you kill someone with a scatter spell.
Oh, I mean, there's a few scatter spells bouncing around these days, aren't there? So, I mean, as you've proved, you can score it. You've just got to have a little bit of forward planning on your side. Make sure you got the lethal hexes in the right place and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And with any spells, you do need a bit of luck on your side. So,
yeah,
but when you play the eyes, you need as much luck as you can possibly get. So,
I suppose that's fitting in with the theme of Siege, isn't it? I guess because they need that randomness.
It's almost that randomness, but also that you've got to be planning about what you're going to do in the game before you've even sat down to roll any dice. is the typical Zinch way. Whether you win or lose, it's decided when you're having breakfast. 2 sausages, nope, you're never going to win now. 2 hash browns, or now everything's back in the balance again.
Is that your chaos theory?
Yes.
Right.
That's why I've not won any Grand Clashes yet. I keep having too many beans.
So Andrew, when you come up with a deck like that, do you look? I mean, it feels to me, well, certainly 2 of the decks I can think of, the Fervent Petitioner deck and this one, Method of the Madness. Do you look at objectives and just think that's completely mad, but it would actually be really good if you could score it? Let's see if we can do that. Is that where you start?
Yeah, so some of them, when you read objective cards, I mean, Extreme Flank's a good one, where I always try and look at it and think, what were the designers trying to achieve with this card? And then try and build a deck to actually make it work. I mean, some cards are just rubbish, and that's kind of the end of it. But some you can make it work, and you always catch opponents off guard when you do actually score it, including yourself, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, some of them, like the Petition deck, can actually work, and no spoilers, but very close games against our man's deck. And some they're not very reliable. So Method in the Madness is, you're not really going to score that very often. But it's great when you do.
Especially when it's a 2 Glory Surge card, and there aren't many of those going around for something that's. I mean, it's not easy to score, but it's relatively attainable depending on the warband you're up against. If you're up against Grimwatch or someone like that, then scoring that might be considerably more doable than if you were up against Stormsire, for example.
The only advantage with, and Tim will probably agree with me with this, when you do like a left field deck, when you play, your opponent doesn't understand what you're doing, and that's the only advantage you really have. Because if you play like a meta deck, people will be like, he's going to score opening gambit or combination strikes and that kind of thing. So when you play a best of 3, you can normally catch them off guard for 1 game, but then your trick's up then, if that makes sense. So.
I think that's what's good about the Fervent Petitioner deck, actually, because like the Method in the Madness deck, once you've scored that once, then I can see your opponent, if they're any good, they're not going to let you score that again. But the Fervent Petitioner deck, I think, admittedly I'm not that good at the game, but it really gets in your opponent's head, because they start to think, well, I don't really want to kill the Petitioners, but I kind of need to kill the Petitioners because I need the glory. And it's very, very hard to stop, because you've got various other ways of Pete, I think, killed a Petitioner by running him into an objective and scoring martyred.
Yep.
Objective and lethal hex to score him martyred, and then was able to bring him back, and which was on his way to his overall plan.
It was
I think that deck is really good, and I think it can. I'm not sure it could be glass winning, or certainly not Grand Clash winning, but I think that is an efficient deck that's actually very hard to stop, and I love how it plays your opponent's mind.
I think it scored about 20 of glory on multiple occasions as well, because I played that against the Godsworn Hunt, and I played it against a man's deck, so I played it against a lower tier and a higher tier sort of
fair, scary 20 glory against the Godsworn Hunt. No,
that's true.
Yeah, even the eyes can achieve that on it.
But I think that was still a deck that you could certainly take that to a local tourney, a smaller event, and you could possibly do pretty well with that, because people just aren't going to know what to do.
Especially with Yeah.
I think there's a couple of reasons why it works so well. Mainly, it's based around objectives, and objectives are there's no luck involved in objectives. You either score it or you don't. You're not casting spells, you're not rolling dice. And the second one is if your opponent, in your first game, because your opponent doesn't realise it, they will kill your petitioners, but you actually want that to happen. So it's almost like an insurance policy. As long as you don't kill 3, you'll always make more glory than you lost. So, that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
But I'm really surprised how well it did against Aman's deck. Gods for One Hunt are not that great, but Aman, he's a great player, and that's a really, really aggressive, great deck as well. So, I'm very surprised by that.
And I'm just checking now because Matt's asked how did the decks do in the most recent far list chopping. So I'm just loading it up now to see how it
I did do one, but I haven't tried it. So there's a couple key cards that aren't here anymore. So I couldn't honestly say how good it is now. Might be good to see in the future.
I'm trying to find it now. I can't even find the deck. I thought I had it saved. So did it lose a lot of cards in the far list?
I'm sure it lost a few cards.
I don't think there are any decks that didn't, are there?
I can't.
It'd be surprising if there weren't. At least a couple,
true.
Yeah. Just try to load
I can't
it up
remember
now.
which ones were it now. I'm sure I kept in Temporary Victory and Blazing Soul because you kind of have to have those ones, but I don't think I kept Restless Prize in the end. There was a couple key cards which couldn't be kept, but like I said, I would definitely try it out in the future, whether it's still any good or not.
Wow,
I couldn't really
it
say.
ended up with five more restricted cards. It had 8 restricted cards overall. That's wow. I mean, I think you probably have to keep, because Scrum and Temporary Victory are in there, but as are Combination Strike and Opening Gambit, and that's where. But you could quite easily, I think, with this deck, you could go the route that a lot of other people have gone with their decks now, which is going for the To the End and those kind of cards that and sort of digging deep, that kind of thing. You could possibly go that route a bit more and maybe be a bit more sort of reserved with them overall as a warband. That way you could keep the 3 restricted Surge cards. You do still have Restless Prize and Frenzied Search in there, and like you say, Blazing Souls, which is possibly almost definitely a must that you need. So you're going to have to do a bit of juggling there, but it's still salvageable, I think.
I'm quite sad that they got rid of, that they had to restrict Blazing Soul. When I can see why they did, because it's too powerful for Prothgore and people like that, but for less good warband, like the Chosen Axes being a classic example, and the Skeletons, it's a really nice card that actually brings them up a level.
Yeah, I think Blazing Soul is the only one that actually hurt the eyes, because that's a really good one for Vortimus, but apart from that,
because Vortimus,
there's quite a few other ones that take out as well. Sorry.
No, go
on. The other one that take out was Frenzied Search, and it's just that all decks are really efficient if you can go for all your cards.
Yeah. And
with the Skeletons, you kind of need all your cards to, you raise your people to get your inspiration and stuff like that. So like I said, it'd be interesting to see. I would love to try it. I think the glory will definitely go down. I think most objective warbands will be hit by that, which is only a good thing. But whether the deck will actually still work or not, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Matt says it's the cannot be inspired mechanic that got it restricted. Do you think? Did many people play?
I mean, it was really good for Mollog and stuff because if you could get it on Mollog or Avron or one of those real linchpin fighters that you do not want to get uninspired, it could be a bit annoying. But then saying that, I don't remember there being many cards in the game that were circulating that uninspired somebody now. So
no, I'm not entirely sure I agree with you there, Matt. I mean, you might have insider information that I don't know about, but I feel like I forgot what I was going to say. I feel like that. Was it Maddening Cackle? There aren't that many uninspiring cards. Regal Vision wasn't restricted, but it's a ploy, and I think it's.
And you've got to be on.
Ploy space is much tighter, and you have to be on an upgrade. Objective. Yeah.
Peter Van den Bosch said earlier we missed that he's going to be having his first in real life game since beginning of lockdown this Sunday, which of course we will be tomorrow.
We're having our first. Yes, excellent. We're meeting tomorrow. We've got our shields and what have you.
We are ready.
Nice.
We are ready to rock and roll.
Look at that.
How long that's going to last, but we'll see. So, everybody watching out there in internet lands, which way? I mean, somebody did laugh earlier, and did make me laugh earlier, and said that I think it was VJ said his main method for building a deck is he throws the cards on the floor, and whichever ones the cat stands on, he picks. What do people out there in internet land? What do you guys do in your tactics for building decks? What is your main method of doing so? And do you have any questions about building decks that you want to ask everybody whilst we're on here at the moment? So, Matt, I know that you have your current, one of your favourite methods is you'll pick some cards which generally, are a bit left field, or you look at them and you think, I want to make that card great again. I want to really, pull that one out of the bag and do something with it. A bit like the fervent petition one, stuff like that, where you think no one's going to see that coming. I really want to do something with that. Do you have other ways that you tend to build your decks, or is that like your main MO?
Normally that's the main way I do it. I try and not do like meta cards. Only recently, until they got banned, until you just realised combination strike and opening gambit were almost so powerful you're kind of penalising yourself if you don't take them. But before that, you'd purposely not take rebound or things like that, because when there's the meta, if you want to change it, you've got to go outside it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
And you're not going to change it by following what everyone else does. And 9 times out of 10, you'll probably come up with something rubbish, but the one time you come up with something good, and then the meta will change because of that thing. So
Yeah, and I definitely think with the latest file list, we've obviously seen a big meta jumble around. Everything's been thrown up in the air, and it looks like a lot of these cards, like we said a little while ago, like To the End and Digging Deep, and is it Frenzied Exchange or whatever it's called? Frantic Exchange?
Frantic Exchange.
A lot of those cards seem to be coming out now, and I like them and I mentioned this in my deck vid, which is on Patreon right now for our Worms back game. Be coming out next week on YouTube. I mentioned in that there's a lot. I've tried to term those cards like Combination Strike and Opening Gambit as carry-alongs, that you put them in your deck, but they don't really sit in your plan. You just carry them along with you, and you score other stuff, and then you just get more glory. So they're just doubling down on what you've already got. They've got rid of a lot of those now, which is good, because it means that people have to take 12 cards that they have to actively work towards, and things like To the End and stuff like that. You've still got to work towards them, because if you want to draw cards, sometimes you've got to sacrifice activations for Digging Deep. If you've got that in your hand and you haven't got like Frenzied Search or the other one, I can't remember the other one now either, but Unnatural Truce. You've then got to start saying to yourself, right, do I start drawing cards here and hope to get those so I can draw the cards to get Digging Deep, or do I have to... It really starts to make people make some decisions about the game. They're not just carry along cards now, that they're just automatic extra wins, which I like.
Yeah, I've not played those combos yet. I've not played Digging Deep or Frantic Exchange, which is interesting, because I feel like they're more my type of cards than your type of cards, Pete. But I've not actually tried those in a deck yet.
Well, I only had them in there because Tom used them before the far list in a Vassal deck, where he came third, I think, in that Vassal tournament, and he had them in that. So he'd seen the writing on the wall. Don't know if he had some insider knowledge at all, or anything like that, but he'd obviously seen that maybe there are other ways that the Worms back can operate, and now that seems to have spread
he's
out.
very good at that. They're all very good at playing that control play, aren't they?
Yeah.
I have to say, as a playstyle, I don't particularly like it. I don't think it's really that... It's almost like a sideways step from playing Combination Strike, because it basically is just get through your cards and just play whatever. It almost doesn't matter. As long as you're playing something. As long as you're playing something, you're scoring glory.
It's true, but it can limit your effectiveness in that you might have cards that you think, I don't want to play this right now, but I'm going to have to score Frantic Exchange.
I'm not saying it doesn't have a downside, but I kind of feel like I want the game to be kind of like crazy, trying to blow people up using lethal hexes or whatever Andrew's trying to do. What's the spell, Andrew, that casts out of
Razormaw Swarm?
From
the lethal hex, that's Ravenous Flame, that is,
Yeah, so that's to me what the game should be about. rather than just kind of rifling through your cards as fast as possible. However, I do really like the 2D end cards. I'm totally contradicting myself there.
I don't like them except those ones. I like those ones, but not the rest of them. So a lot of people have been online. There's obviously been a tournament since the Far List came out with a lot of very different warbands in the top 10, which is quite interesting to see. There was Ilthari's Guardians and Skaven and Thorns and all manner of different warbands in there. Have you noticed yourself, Andrew, that it's made a big difference to your deck building process, or are you so far left field right now that you don't notice?
It hasn't affected them too much. I mean, a lot of the cards, which are like always picks, like Restless Prize and Combination Strikes, because they're so good, now they're restricted, you've got to have a good reason to kind of take them. They're still good cards, but you can't just chuck them in whenever. I've converted most of my decks. I mean, they'll be weaker without them, of course, but I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see. I'd love to try them. My local gaming place hasn't opened up yet, so when they do, that would be good.
I do wonder how much, whilst some decks have obviously...
There's some guy called Chris Marlowe on heckling you, Andrew.
It's not your
That'd be
room,
my
it's too
dad,
tidy.
yeah, that's the one.
I think whilst the Far List has obviously taken quite a few warbands out the back and given them a good kicking, I wonder how much weaker warbands, such as Godsworn Hunt and the Eyes and stuff like that, I wonder how much of a kicking it's given them as well. I kind of see it like a sliding scale, as it were, of like Thorns and Grimwatch at one end and Godsworn Hunt and all that down the other end. And I don't see that scale dropping sort of the same for everybody. I kind of see it as more of a flattening, if that kind of makes sense. So I wonder if that's...
Yeah, I would say the Thorns, most objective warbands, Hofgrorn, can't pronounce it. They've suffered a lot. I mean, when the Eyes are at the bottom, you can't go any lower anyway. But I think the glory ceiling will be a lot lower. So everyone will score less, but it will make the games much more even because the objective players can't just run away with the game. Sometimes you'll get into round 2 and you'll be like, they'll have 17 glory to your 5, and you'll be like, there's no way I can possibly win. So we'll just have to lose graciously by flipping the table and then storming off.
Flicking everyone the bird and walking off screaming, it's a stupid game anyway.
I think obviously the warband specific nerfs have helped that.
Yeah.
And Thorns in the biggest case in point, Varklav's ability.
Yeah.
It's obviously going to bring them down a peg and nobody else. And they've all of the powerful warbands have had that to an extent, which is good. I do often feel that the weaker warbands always do take a bit of a kicking, even with the even though the changes are not wholesale across the board. So, for example, as you said already, Blazing Soul that hurts the Eyes of the Nine, as well as Mollog and Hrothgorn, but it probably does have a bigger effect on Hrothgorn still, probably, because their Inspire mechanic is not straightforward. And so if you can circumvent it, and then that's the problem, isn't it? It's where it just completely circumvents what is often a deliberately quite hard thing to do. Like Mollog, I can't remember what his Inspire condition is. It's so long since I played them. But if your opponent buys their time and kind of scores passive glory and then builds up and then just moves in and goes straight for the kill, then Mollog can be in big trouble. But that is like a get out of jail free card, isn't it? It's just bang, what, he's inspired now, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I feel like a lot of these things have kind of it's that typical thing again where they bring a warband out that has a mechanic that breaks the normal mould. I mean, mentioned this before, like you have the the Curse Breakers, who were all spellcasters, and you had Mollog, who can do his double charge when he's inspired and things like that, and the Thorns with their move everybody ability. It's so far outside of the normal structure of the game that it's going to break things, and then they have to start banning things or restricting things to just bring that back inside. A bit like with the Hrothgorn, I can't remember the reaction that they've banned, the upgrade
Hunter's Reflexes.
Yeah, so they banned that because it was brilliant for Hrothgorn because he made everyone a hunter, but shit for nearly everybody else because no one bothers with the hunter mechanic at all. So or the
Yeah.
quarry mechanic. So I feel like every time they try and do that, they're always going to end up breaking something, and they then have to either ban or restrict stuff, or then errata it in the case of Varklav to make it work again for everybody.
There are a lot of moving parts of the game now, so I think it's very hard for them to get a handle exactly on how they're all going to interact, especially when I don't know what their team is for looking at the game, but let's say it's 20 people. As soon as it hits live, it goes out to several thousand across the globe, and they're going to come up with, people like Andrew come up with ways of using the cards work in ways they've never envisaged. Andrews are normally nice and friendly, but the person who first realised that Hunter's Reflexes was awesome, and broke the game.
Yeah. I see that as a bit of a failing from the playtesting point of view. And I know there's a lot of combination, there's a lot of different factors, but some of the things that have broken it, you just think, how did no one spot that during playtesting?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are definitely instances of that, aren't there, where almost immediately people have said, well even not even breaking the game. But I remember when Varklav's ability came out, there was immediately a question about whether the going through people worked on his push, and it was completely unclear. And how that didn't come up in playtesting. Yeah, I don't know
exactly. No Beef Just Party has said, do we think that some of the far list cards were made because of potentially broken combos in the new warband cards as well? I don't think so, because I don't think they can spot the broken cards in the ones they've already released for a couple of months. So I
don't feel like they do. There was that instance where they banned the double move card and then immediately bought out another one. So maybe that's a suggestion that they do it. I don't know, but I'm not sure. I feel like they take each set of cards at the time. I don't feel they look forward, but they may. What cards are you thinking of though? No Beef Just Party. Is there something you think? Well, actually, they banned that because
there's another Hunter's Reflexes
something
coming.
super duper coming.
There's a card which gives someone an upgrade that pushes everyone 2 hexes.
I mean, the good news is they've actually started restricting faction-specific cards. Otherwise, those factions are always powerful because of their innate cards. There is a tier system. I haven't really looked into it, but basically that is what it's based upon, is whatever cards your faction can bring, which no one else can use. But now they restrict them, it's great. So, Stormcast and Mollog and Fawns and stuff like that, they can, if they're performing too powerful, you can just knock them down, which is great. And I'm pretty certain no eyes cards will ever get restricted, because they're all great.
No. They've got some terrible cards.
So
what was the one that came out in the Power Unbound deck? So I think Cursebreaker's got their own innate hammer or something. Yeah. And then Eyes of the Nine got.
I think it's if they fail an attack with 3 dice, it's like a 1 glory surge, which is just like. Who fails an attack against the Eyes of the Nine? They're like the weakest people in the game. It's like bonkers. So, anyways.
Earlier on as well, No Beef mentioned about do we think that they'd ever introduce like a warband specific far list limit? So, Eyes of the Nine, they can have as many restricted cards as they like. Thorns, Grimwatch, they can only have 3 restricted cards, that kind of thing. I've always liked the idea of having something like that, a ranking system, a more official sort of ranking system, because I know a lot of other games like Blood Bowl and stuff, and other systems by other companies have unofficial ranking systems that do have some impact on the game, or can have some impact on the game to level them up a little bit. And I wonder if they could do something like that in Underworlds too.
I think it's too hard to administer.
I like the idea, but I think that would kind of acknowledge that some warbands are rubbishier than others, which they probably don't want to do.
Well, they did it with Blood Bowl, right?
No one's going to buy it if they're like, this band needs 5 restricted cards to contend with the 4 ones who have 3.
True, but
it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean they did it with Blood Bowl, and I know that they've done it with there was another game, I can't remember now what they were called, but yeah, so like in Blood Bowl you've got the different tiers and stuff like that, and I guess it's in some ways, if they acknowledged that, Eyes of the Nine, okay, they're like a D-list tier, or I don't know how the tiers work exactly, but if they're a bottom level warband and Chosen Axes they're in there and Godsworn Hunter in there, I think it might drive a few more people to go, you know what, underdogs, that's me, I want them, that's what I'm going to pick, because I always have a tendency to do that. The minute Grimwatch became Grand Clash winners like 2-3 times in a row, or whatever it was, I mean, we didn't touch them, did we?
No, but I think we're exceptional.
Well, obviously.
I mean, we are
We're all
exceptional, obviously.
on this
But I kind of see what you mean. And I think the worst part, there was a definite acknowledgement that they weren't so good as people hoped, and people tried to make them work in the best way possible. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, having a tier list is one thing, because I mean, whether it's official or not, we all know which warbands are better than others, and which ones are the worst ones. There might be some disagreement about the exact order, but I think what No Beef was really saying was, do we think they'll actually actively try and level it by giving the crappy ones a boost, rather than just taking away from the good ones? And I think they could, but I think if you're trying to run a tournament or something, it starts to become really difficult then, making sure everybody's got the right number of restricted cards for their warband or whatever. I think it's too much of an admin headache.
You say that, but they didn't check when we were into the last Grand Clash.
No, they didn't. Okay, but they might. They should.
Well, they should. Yeah.
They should. But also it becomes more difficult for your opponent as well. So if you're playing somebody and they're cheating because they've got 5 restricted cards in their deck, you notice. But if you can't remember whether they should have 3, 4, 5, or 6, then it becomes harder to administer. And then if you've got new players coming in, you say, well, you can't have these cards when you're playing Cursebreakers, but you can have them when you're playing Eyes of the Nine. I think it just becomes
there is that
too much of a barrier. Chris Marlowe has said, if you could make one change to the game, what would it be?
I'll let you answer that one first, Andrew.
Go on, Andrew. What would it be?
Oh, crikey.
Sorry, I just put you straight on the spot there.
To reach through.
I'm not really too sure, to be honest. I don't know.
I'll go. While you think about it, I'll say I would like them to have less bolt-on mechanics. So Hunter Quarry was fine,
right.
But I just think there's just too many like the combos and poisons and. Hunter Quarry is one of them. I feel like there's something else in Lost Pages.
Yeah.
Some of the token mechanics, they're okay, but I feel like it's adding variety for variety's sake, and they're not always that well thought out, and they're often only half implemented. Cycles is another one. Yeah, Wolfman Gaz has just said, and I think they're potentially interesting, but the implementation doesn't quite work. So I think they'd be better off just not having them. I mean, nobody plays them really. There's almost no.
Yeah, true.
I mean, Pete, for example, famously never plays the ritual mechanic.
Not through choice. I tell you, the one change I would make would be in best of 3s, so that whoever wins the roll off the first time round automatically loses the second time round. Because
that's good.
There's nothing worse than when you win the roll off and you think, you know what, I'll place the boards and I'll let them have the objectives, and then you place the boards thinking how you're doing it exactly how you want, and actually what you've done is you've given your opponent all the objectives which they wanted, and you've done the boards exactly how they wanted as well, and you get absolutely stuffed, and then you sit here in the second game and think, right, okay, I know what their game plan is the next time round, and then they win the roll off, and then they do it again anyway. You're like, well, I can't fucking do anything about that.
To be fair, in that instance, that wouldn't help, because you won the roll off in the first instance, and then they won the roll off in the second.
No, true, but that was my example was wrong.
I know exactly what you mean. There is definitely, I don't think it's quite so bad now, but certainly under Night Malt, there was a time where if you played certain warbands against other warbands, if you didn't win the roll off, it was so much harder to win. And probably Grimwatch, probably at the beginning of Beastgrave, if you didn't get the roll off against Grimwatch, you were probably screwed. I mean, you were pretty screwed.
Against any objective warband, if they get 3 objectives in there, is that when you win the roll off? Can't remember. Like,
if you win the roll off, you can pick up the board first, and then you get 3 objectives. Yeah,
that's it. So any objective warband, if they win the roll off, they've got a big advantage. If they don't, then they have to come in your half, and it totally changes the game. Yeah, so I would agree with that one.
I noticed that a lot, especially in Warhammer Underworlds Online as well at the minute. In that I really sometimes want to have a second game against some opponents because it's just been the luck of the dice at the start which has given them the objectives when I'm playing my objective grabbing sepulchral guard or something like that. It's like I'm just screwed. I'm not going to win this now because I've got to spend the first 2 rounds just slogging across the board to get near them, and they've just spent their whole time kicking the crap out of me. So something like that I think would be great to level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, things like when you're playing Aurochs and they offset the boards. It's, from then on, it's an uphill struggle. But then, maybe there's something to say your deck should cater for that eventuality.
That's why the game's the best of 3, right? To offset that, mitigate the randomness there you've got of boards and objectives.
If I could make one change, I would say you can't longboard. I hate longboarded.
I nearly added that. I nearly said that when I was talking. Yeah, I would. I'd go along with that.
Because some warbands, all the slow ones, you'd heavily penalised. Some warbands like Skaven doesn't really matter, but some like the Orcs, it's like you're going to spend 2 rounds running across the board and not really playing, which is a bit pants.
I guess that would be offset somewhat by having if you win the first roll off, you automatically lose the second, because then if you don't get the choice of board set up the first time round, you're going to get it the second time round, or at least you're going to get the option of doing that if you want to, and then that levels that playing field up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I play longboarding very often. I definitely play longboarding much more in Underworlds Online than I do in real life, mostly because it's an absolute pig to actually set up properly in real life. But I think like Matt said, it can be just no fun at all for the other person because you've just chosen to do that. And the
Wormspat cycle deck, not cycle, but the one where you have to try and get through all your cards, that prefers longboard, doesn't it? And it kind of
depends on the situation.
Well, okay, but you longboarded me.
Yes.
I remember it vividly, and it just because Matt says let the carnage flow, because it just ties into that. And I know there are people who do like the style of play, but that control play is all about not letting your opponent play their game. Well, it's kind of what I've come to do. I don't want to play a game,
but I guess
I don't want to just sit and watch while you go through your cards and I stagger up the board towards you.
Yeah, there's a difference of like not letting them play the plan they want to do, and then just not letting them play. And one's fun and one's not. So it's kind of
I mean that's definitely it can be really annoying when you do that kind of thing. It can be really frustrating. I guess that's the competitive angle of it, and I think in a friendly match, I think people are probably much less likely to longboard and stuff like that. But once you get competitive, the gloves are off and it's every man and woman for themselves to try and take home their glass.
Chris has followed up with, how about doing away with the double supported dice icon, having 2 single supports? That's an interesting idea, which never ever occurred to me in a million years.
What difference would that achieve? I mean, you wouldn't have double supports, obviously.
It would mean if you had a single, you'd have 2 chances. If you had 1 single support, you'd have 2 chances of it being a success.
Kind of takes away a little bit from larger.
Instead of a +1, it'd be like a +2 to your dice.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you see double supports in this game? Almost never. Well, I don't anyway. But single supports you see a bit more, and it might actually it would help aggro, I think, because it's hard to have an aggro plan and get double supports, but it's not so bad to get single supports. I would like to see some games.
Interesting. With our dice, it probably
you normally only get double supports if you charge for your first one, and then you charge for your second one, they both miss, and then your third one charges in. That's if they're still alive.
I've played Godsworn Hunt, that doesn't happen. You charge the first one in, then they're killed. You charge the second one in, then they're killed.
Third one, also
and so on. Repeat. Repeat until Grawl's dead.
By middle of second round, nobody's alive anymore. You've either got all the glory or none. So everybody watching in internet lands at home, thank you for joining us today. And if you do have any questions about deck building, whether it's rules around deck building, if you're not sure on what the rules are, or you want any advice or tips or tricks or anything like that, do shout out in the comments and we will try and answer them during our babbling along as we go along tonight.
He's building a Tau deck with Shadow Sun. Can I include other Warlord signature cards in the deck? If you want to, but I think you'll find it's illegal in Underworld.
I say go with it because fuck it, why not?
Yeah. Have you been playing Doom Ruin again? Yeah.
That was the April the 1st thing that some.
That was the April the 1st thing, yeah.
That was quite funny. Dreadnoughts! Oh my god, they've ruined it. Have you checked the date? I mean, I.
So, what are you working on at the moment, Andrew? What's going to be your next? Are you still working on Eyes of the Nile, or have you got a new trick? You've got a trick up your sleeve?
I've recently, I think I put them on Discord the other day. I just quickly redid the Method in the Madness deck, and I did a Worms Bat one. So hopefully I'll get to play them soon. I'm actually going down end of July, so hopefully I'll get a few games in with my dad then and see if it's any good or not.
Oh, cool.
So, who knows? That'd be good. But yeah, I mean, everyone's waiting for the new warbands to come out because obviously that'll completely change the meta as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those coming out. It's funny, I don't normally want them to come out, but I think it's been such a long time, and I think although I think the VAR changes are good, I kind of want to see how they interact with the new cards. I'm hoping for some combos. I'm hoping for some better cards for aggro, so that maybe Godsword Hunt or Reavers can compete on a relatively level playing field. I'm so gutted they took away the possibility of scoring Triumphant Hunt, even if it was inadvertent, or that was quite a nice little combination, and I wanted to explore that further. And I'm also looking forward to poisons. I want poisons to be a thing.
They definitely need some objectives.
You want poisons
to actually bring them in your deck to make them a thing. That'd be really good.
Yeah,
Robin wants poison to come back. Is it there? Every rose has a thorn that's got you hooked. Sorry, it's a really bad 90s.
I hope when the new warbands come out, they've got good cards and they spice up the meta.
I've just got to quickly interject here, Andrew. You handled that like a pro. You're like, I'm not going to even fucking acknowledge that joke. That was terrible. I'm just going to keep talking about the game.
I'm not sure he realised it was a joke.
I did, but
sorry. What were you saying? I just need to acknowledge that was top class. What stuff that you just did there? Just completely blanked it.
He's drinking.
Jesus, it's got to be.
Yeah, that's it. I've just switched to the vodka now.
Sorry, what were you saying, mate? Sorry.
So I hope when the new warbands come out, they bring cards which spice up the meta, but they don't bring out cards which are like must-have cards. Cards like Restless Prize or Combination Strike and things like that, where everyone's going to bring them in every deck. I hope there's cards which are like, if you play, a certain way and do a certain thing, you can score this card, but they're not like, if you just play normally, you will always score this card. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely
looking forward to new cards, but hopefully some of them aren't already overpowered or broken or can be exploited or stuff like that. So
yeah. If you score Method of the Madness, you start on 10 glory for your next 5 games.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
VJ asked, how do we rate the default faction decks? And I think the fact that some of them have restricted cards in them now kind of tells you, Despoilers, yeah, their faction specific decks sucks a bit. Wormspat, sucks a bit. I mean, they've got a faction specific fucking supremacy, for Christ's sakes. Grimwatch, they've got 2 restricted cards in there. I think maybe their deck might be a bit better off the bat. I don't think they're balanced at all, and I don't think they could make them balanced, to be fair.
No, they could, but they haven't.
It'd be a lot more work, I think.
Yeah.
We said before, haven't we? There is a power creep with new warbands because they've got sale models and stuff like that. So as long as they don't go too far, and that's why I'm glad they've restricted faction cards, because otherwise some things like, Grimwatch, whatever it is, and the Thorns, they were always good no matter what new cards came out, but now they've done that. It's great.
Yeah, I think I'm expecting season on season for the warbands to get better, because obviously they develop each season sort of in a slight bubble, but also with only previous seasons to represent and test against. I would hope that within a season you wouldn't
want to be in a bubble with Wormspat, would you?
I'm hoping that within a season they don't get better and better and better as they release the warbands, or else it just means you're like, oh, what's the 7th and 8th warband? They're going to be the best ones. But yeah, within a season there's definitely always going to be that scope creep as they go, let's add more stuff, more funky rules and mechanics and things like that. And I'm just sitting there thinking, give me another Reavers. I loved Reavers. They didn't have much going on with them.
Daughters of Cain could definitely be better Reavers,
I'm
though,
really
couldn't
hoping.
they?
Yeah.
2 Dodge Reavers, that's what I've expected.
Oh, you know.
2 Dodge Reavers sounds like a band name.
Shit band, but a band.
Well, no, that's not as bad as 1 Dodge Reavers, are they?
NoFB says he's missing the physical underworlds a lot and looking forward to getting back to doing it soon. Hopefully, we've definitely got tired of TTS. It's come to the end of its life, I feel now.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't know about you, Andrew. I don't know if you're playing a lot of games digitally online at the minute. If you're doing much Vassal or TTS, or whether you're just sticking with Underworlds Online at the minute.
Just Underworlds Online, which is good. They just need to release more cards, I think, to really spice it up, and restriction of cards and stuff like that. It's fine as it is, but you just need more variety to get more things like that. And obviously waiting for the eyes as well, so that'd be great.
Well, they might be one of the next warbands. They've said that they're going to be caster warbands, so
they might actually have a chance in this meta, so that'd be great.
VJ says as a non-competitive player is more interested in a fun, fair game with a minimum of effort. Yeah, I can go along with that.
They're definitely.
I almost feel like it'll be interesting if they did a. I've just thought of this off the top of my head, but if they almost did like a core deck that you could play on both sides, it's not on both sides, but they did just do. Actually, it's a stupid idea because all the miniatures have got different stats. But I think it'll be interesting to see if you could actually just play with the same deck on both sides and see how they how they played.
I guess you kind of could, because you could just take all non-faction specific cards, and then you could take like Reavers and Despoilers or something like that. Kind of the same.
That might work, but I was thinking actually if you played the same cards with Wormspat versus the Grimwatch, the outcome would be it depends a little bit on what those cards were.
Yeah.
But I think it would be nice to have a decent balanced deck that works across the board. I don't know if that's possible, but it'd be nice. No, it would be nice to have.
I'm sure you could do, if you had like Grimwatch versus Thorns and you had 2 objective grabbing kind of decks, you could definitely do that kind of thing, or things like that. But you kind of have to rely on the 2 warbands having similar sets of models. It's a bit like you're getting back towards chess, aren't you? The more generic you make it.
Peter and VJ are about to have a fight because Peter said that deck building is one of the fun parts of the game, and if these live chats taught me anything, it's that VJ doesn't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think some people love spending hours building the decks, and Andrew, I think you said in the past you enjoy leafing through all the cards and coming across those little examples where you think, oh, I'm just going to have to try and make that work with some other really left field sort of choices. And I'm a bit more on the side with VJ. Sometimes I just cannot bear the thought of having to try and create another deck. I don't know if it's because I sit here and think it's got to be unique. I can't use the same 15 cards from the last 3 or 4 weeks because people don't want to see that. So I've got to come up with a new angle, a new edge. But sometimes I just sort of think, oh god, I can't bear the thought of creating another deck, and that's why I really love that our patron has come up, and especially you, Andrew, come up with so many different ideas that we can just mercilessly pillage and just go, right, cool, this week I'm trying out this deck by somebody else. And I've almost started to enjoy picking up the Patreon decks and using those out of the box with very little sort of work. And I mean, I don't know if it makes for good games, I don't know if it makes for good entertainment, but it's
always entertaining.
It's good. It's what we aim for.
Thank you.
And it just it takes a bit of the stress off of, oh god, I've got to try and come up with another deck which has something unique and different to it that everybody isn't already doing or that we haven't already done. But I can see the attraction as well, that people would enjoy sitting there. It's a bit like when you used to roll D&D characters up or make army lists up and stuff like that. I used to do that when I was a lot younger, spend hours doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, think that element of the game it definitely suits people who are perhaps got a bit more time on their hands. If you know what I mean. I would love to theory craft lots of decks, but I just don't have the energy in the evenings to do it. Too tired.
The fun part is theory crafting. The sad part is when you play it and you're like, this is just rubbish. because it all looks good on paper, and then you just all falls apart.
That is very true. Matt's made a very good point, though. Is he generally can't be bothered to physically compile them. That is, the more and more cars there are, the less fun that becomes. And I have absolutely one thing I won't miss, or will miss from doing Tabletop Simulator, is how easy it is just to port your deck in and just play with it.
We are trying to add digital decks to our games just to make that aspect slightly easier. Yeah,
because it is I can spend hours sometimes because I'm messy. I can spend hours sometimes leafing through the deck, trying to find my box rather of cards, trying to find the cards I need, and then you find out you've left one of them in another deck that you'd forgotten you built, and you can't find it, and it just drives me insane.
We come out to the garage, and then we play the first game, and then you're like, right, I'm just going to dig out the cards from this deck that I need in my second deck for the night, and then I've only got 18 cards here. I'm sure I should have 20 count again. Now I've got 19
you turn over cards like, oh, that one's not meant to be in there.
Or a few games where we've been playing, you're like, I've got 2 great strengths. I'm not sure that this is right.
Someone's cheating. Absolutely.
Milky says he spent 30 minutes looking for a card he didn't own.
There's another Marlowe in the house.
There's Marlows everywhere.
Crikey, there we are.
When are they going to bring out an Empire Warband with great swords, repeater pistols, puffy sleeves, and absurd cod pieces? Well, we can but dream.
Somebody did a conversion, didn't they, of Godsworn Hunt with Empire soldiers, and it looked brilliant.
I did look amazing. I would love. I'm be realistic. I would love a Free People's Warband.
That's what they're called, aren't they? Yeah, they're like the Empire.
I'm never going to get Empire, but a Free People's Warband would be bloody great.
You could even have like a couple of humans. You could have a dwarf in there and an elf. You know, proper mixed up Free People sort of army.
Here's a crazy idea. Again, I've just thought of top of my head. Therefore, won't be any good for the because what would happen is there'd be a better configuration. But for the Empire, or for the Free People's Empire, you get like 6 figures or 7 figures, and you can only choose 5 of them. So, but each time you can feel a different combination, just for the Free People's.
I feel that sounds like a great idea on paper until everyone works out these are the 4 you always take, and the other 2 no one.
I was about to say there will be. That's why I said there will be one better combination. I suppose there might be for against different opponents. It might give you a bit of tactical flexibility. So I'm playing Wormspat. Well, I'm going to bring Bridget and Bernard. I'm going to leave Dorf at home.
Yeah.
Possibly. You could almost do that if you had like a Shadespire 2.0, and then you could say if you bring these characters, you can play these cards, kind of thing. It'd be a different game then, I think, but it'd be an interesting idea.
Okay, right, everybody, let's go off and invent our own new tabletop game.
And then we're going to end up about 9 iterations later in 30 years. Okay, this is not what we wanted. Shit.
Wow, okay, the comments have gone mad. Right, Matt has said, is that a question for Andrew? What card would you add to the far list, Andrew, that isn't on there?
Good question.
Putting you on the spot here with these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, strangely enough, that wasn't on my list of questions that might be asked.
Okay. You can start asking yourself questions if that's easier.
You can refer to yourself in the third person as well if you like. Andrew asks. Andrew, what would you do?
Oh, good question. I don't know, really.
I'd
probably put something like Supremacy as a restricted card, because I think that's really powerful for objective play.
How often people score
and almost all objective players take it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And if you're Grimwatch or Thorns, it's almost given, isn't it?
Yeah, for the core set, isn't it? It's very unlikely to happen. But yes, I can see what you mean. I don't know what I would add. Try and think.
Potion of Rage. Everyone takes that. The minute you've got an offensive warband,
or
Potion of
Great
Rage.
Strength, because everyone takes Great Strength. That's a really good card. So.
Yeah.
I guess that might have the same problem again, in that it's a core card. It's a bit much to, but I think maybe.
The problem with Potion of Rage is I think that would just make the other the objective-based warbands even better. That's the problem with restricted something like that. The aggro need that. You need that reliable attack. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'd get rid of. I'm struggling to remember any of the cards of the game. Like I've been put on the spot now. I can't remember anything. I can only remember all the already restricted ones.
Chris Marlowe says the best conversion of the Godsworn is Orcs Telemange, Who's what? Oh, is your
Yeah,
father's
So
baby?
yeah, I've seen those.
Oh yes,
pictures.
I have.
They're-
Yes,
They're,
they
they're
were
on
great.
Patreon. They can. He also converted the cards as well, and they look fantastic.
Brilliant.
But they still play rubbish because they got to 100. But they're great fun to play against. So.
But they're orcs now, so it doesn't matter who wins as long as there's a good scrap.
It's what the orcs. They should have been orcs originally, I think, because you've got your shaman and your bows, and he's got the squig and everything. And I think they look a lot better. But there you go.
I mean,
I'm slightly biased.
Godsworn Hunt was one of those warbands I remember when they first came out, and I thought the models looked shite. And it was actually the paint job was didn't do them any favours, and the angles of some of the pictures were terrible. And then one of our patroners, Rob, painted us the Godsworn Hunt, and they're possibly, I think, almost one of my favourite paint jobs out of all the war. We've had a lot of warbands, and I love them all. But I think his Godsworn Hunt's got to be possibly one of the best paint jobs we've had for one of the least played warbands we have in the entire collection.
I've played them quite a lot. I love you
A bit
know.
more recently, you did take to a Grand Clash, that is true.
Someone took, about to say.
Yeah, I've played them quite a lot. I've been shit with them, but I've played with them quite a lot.
We don't.
Mollog has got 0 use.
Moloch has had a lot less use, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
The Godsworn models are really good. It turned out. I wasn't that impressed with them when they started. They didn't excite me at all, but they're very dynamic.
Yeah, they
Skaeth's still my favourite dynamic.
They look a lot better.
Skaeth. Sheoch.
yeah, they look a lot better unpainted than the GW paint job I found. I don't know why. It's really weird because normally, their paint jobs look brilliant, and it's not like I've got any room to criticise their paint jobs, but.
Okay, so nobody suggested restricting the scattered tome, which I then completely forgot what it was, but it's the one that puts the lost page, the upgrade that you get glory for putting the lost pages together. I haven't seen it when we already played with Pete. We haven't used it yet, so it wouldn't make much difference if they restricted it to us, but I can see it being very powerful. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that one because at the minute there are 4 lost pages. Each one gives you a spell action, so it's not like you can just use them all the time. Apart from the
what's her name?
IR's
It's a
Instant
reaction
Shield.
as well.
Yeah, that one's a reaction, so that one's slightly different. But that's 4 upgrades, and then you need the tome, which is an upgrade as well. So that's 5 upgrades for 4 glory on what is nearly always just a single caster model. It seems like many eggs in a singular basket sort of scenario. So I'm not sure.
To me, it's more of a balanced version of when they had the tome objectives. It's better, but I played against it a couple of times. Well, before the pandemic, and it's still the same kind of play style. Is they just turtle up in the corner. They normally longboard you. They get a few easy glory and then just sit back, and you can't really do much about it. But it's better than it was before. But
I guess maybe I'm measuring the Forgotten Pages effectiveness against the tomes effectiveness, whereas the tomes effectiveness was a bit broken, and maybe this is not as broken, and that's why it doesn't look as good. But yeah, maybe that's what.
Well, it's funny because it's not objectives, so you could be scoring objectives at the same time. At least the tomes, you kind of screwed up your upgrades, and you had to, you used up one of your objective slots as well.
Yeah, that is true.
But this is like a bonus.
That is a good point.
With the tomes, anyone could have them. I mean, the eyes could have them with the Blue Horror, which is a famous one. And Hofgrun had it as well. But with the scattered tomes or lost pages, even it has to be a spellcaster. So instantly, it's normally just one model. As long as you kill them, you're fine. But I don't think it encourages a very good active play style. But
and I guess because it isn't that good an option. It possibly, that's why it hasn't become the way of playing now, like tomes were for a while. And
Matt makes a good point that the tomes did better things than the spells, or different things.
Yeah. So
I mean, Tome of Glories and Tome of Offerings, pretty tasty.
So I mean,
sorry.
No, go on.
Some of the tomes were really powerful, and some of them were absolute garbage.
Yeah,
they weren't balanced very well there.
No.
But you had to take. I guess the only balancing act it was there is that you had to take a load of them because you needed to get as many tomes as you could onto one fighter to maximise your glory. So you had to take the trash ones as well as the good ones, just because you needed them all.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Okay, random question, Andrew. Sorry, I'm going to ask Andrew a random question, which has nothing to do with Underworld at all. What is that a map on your back wall there that the viewers can't quite see because of the circle? But is that?
It's a painted picture of Game of Thrones. I got it for my birthday a while back. So there you go.
Cool. Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty cool. I like that.
Like a good map. Oh, I do like a good
Yeah,
map.
me too.
So, Andrew, do you play a lot of other warbands other than Eyes, or are you mostly sort of an Eyes? Are they for your Eyes only?
Played Skaven quite a bit. Played Guard quite a bit. Whichever ones did I play? The Spoilers as well.
All the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skaven won the last for Sale tournament.
I normally don't play the meta warbands. You go for the more challenging ones, there's more satisfying experience. And then there's some I just don't have. I played the Gits quite a lot as well. They're great fun. Just the more weird and wacky warbands, basically.
Yep, I think that's the way to be. I think there should be a weird and wacky warband Grand Clash.
There definitely should be. I think we'll have to try and make that a bit of a factor for our for our Agents Con next year.
We'll work out what the official tier list is, and then say you can't play the top tier.
No Curse Breakers, no Thorns, no Grimwatch. No problem.
Yeah, VJ's got a good question for you, Andrew. Do you play other games beside Underworlds? And I know that you do, but
I've played a lot of Gloomhaven. I've really got into the online version. I think that's fantastic. I played the board game quite a lot with my dad mainly when I get a chance when I go down south. That's really about it. I played 40k many years ago, but I haven't really got time for that anymore.
Who has these days?
Yeah, it's not enough time in the day for painting and all sorts, or just playing the games.
Mm-hmm. And then VJ, do you take any ideas or concepts from those games into your Underworld play style? Interesting question.
What do you mean, like off the wall play styles? Will this tactic work? Oh no, it doesn't. Damn.
Have you played much Gloomhaven since it's been updated?
I've played a fair bit. Yeah, it's actually it's more a narrative experience. Looking forward to videos when you can finally get them out.
Then get on with it.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of tad busy, but yeah, I will. I haven't played. I played about 2 games, and then as people know, life took over. But I will get back on it maybe in a couple of weeks, hopefully. Anyway, because I'm really itching to play, but it's just I need to go to bed at the moment. The days are full.
Finding the time in the day to actually be able to do this kind of stuff, and if we hadn't had the whole pandemic thing, you'd have. Not saying you'd have loads more time, but you'd have some time in the day where the kids would be at school and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm just counting down the hours now till September.
But you can go back. But Dad, the schools aren't open. No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Just go find a classroom in there somewhere and leave me alone.
I don't know what you mean. Took my kids to the park today for not quite the first time, but almost the first time to meet some friends. And my youngest, just for the first half an hour, just sat on my knee. Just like, I've been with you for 16 weeks. There's nothing we possibly need to say to each other. Please go and play.
Go away. Please leave me alone. So, Andrew, do you ever find that you get one of the warbands that you're maybe not very fond of and think, you know what, I'm actually going to try and crank out a deck for these guys and see if it's any good or something like that? Or do you just are there certain warbands you're like, no, dead to me, I don't care, I don't ever want to think about them?
I tried it with a few. I think some warbands favour a particular play style, and my play style is normally kind of horde aspect or kind of crapper warriors, more kind of underdog streams. You know what I mean? I did a couple Stormcast ones and stuff like that, and they're not really. They don't really see my play style, as you understand. So, I really enjoyed playing. I thought the Wormspat would be really good, and then obviously they turned out to be not quite so good. Yeah. So there you are. But I did try like the Stormcast one when they brought out the objective when everyone has to go on guard, and I played around with that for a bit. But it's okay, but not as fun as the Gits or something like that when you just charge them off.
The problem with that mechanic is it's inherently boring, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
I mean,
I
I'd
just
like to
love
see
weird
you
and wacky
play.
things happening.
I'd like you to play Wormspat and have like cover ground and gather momentum in your deck.
Not impossible, but tricky.
Trickier at least. Yeah, I think I'm a bit like you. I don't like having small warbands, and when the Worms pack came out and there were 3 models, I mean, I was ecstatic because I absolutely loved the models, and I'm a big Nurgle fan. I absolutely adored the models, but then the actual playstyle of them, I'm like, I don't really like 3 fighter warbands. I've always been like minimum 5 fighter, preferably 7, and that's just always been my thing. So it was a bit depressing for me to sort of go, brilliant, it's the warband I've been waiting for like 2 years, and it's a 3 fighter warband that I don't really find that fun to play.
Generally, I shy away from elite warbands. I just find you've got less choices on the board, and especially if you get a bit unlucky in your first couple of dice rolls and someone dies, you're like, right, I've just got 2 guys left, and your options are really limited. When you've got 7 models like the Git or the Spoilers with 5, you've just got a lot more options available, and there's a lot more things you can do, which I just find, it's just funner to play, in my honest opinion. But
there's a call for Nurglings in the comments.
Definitely.
That was definitely would have made it more interesting having some Nurglings. I played Grimwatch in our coming up game. I played Grimwatch, but Tim and I put the deck together, and it was just. I completely agree with you. We kind of went away from the traditional Grimwatch meta and tried something a bit different. But it was just really fun because you've got so many models that there was always something to do. Even when we had 2 games, Pete lost one of them, and the outcomes were quite different in both games. But it was always fun because there was always something to do. And I find when you play the small warbands, my most frustrating thing when I get frustrated about the game is when you just can't make anything work, and that happens more often with the small warbands because if the cards don't come out or somebody dies, like you say, you just can't make it work, and it's depressing. Whereas at least when you've got more options with the multiple warbands, even if it is charging with Grawl with Potion of Rage and Great Strength on him,
and just crossing everything.
It's vaguely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you suffer casualties in a large warband, it doesn't really matter so much. You can, like I said, you can beef them up with Great Strength and Potion of Rage and stuff like that. But if you lose 1 or 2, then your options are so limited. You're kind of like, well, I can only do this, and I don't know. I don't find it as fun myself.
Yeah, is that our Chosen Axes game hasn't gone out to YouTube yet, has it?
No, I think it's going out this week.
No, I won't say too much then, but that was a classic example of when you start to lose models. it just
reduces your capabilities somewhat. I always find whenever I play against a player who's good with a 3 fighter warband, they always tend to make one model unfucking killable. I might kill off the other 2, but there's one that's always unkillable. Whenever I play them, they always just seem to fold up like a piece of wet paper in a breeze, and I just can't play 3 fighter warbands. And we had a game a little while ago, Robin, where, well, I say a while ago, it was before lockdown started. I think it was Nurgle versus, might have been even Hrothgorn or something like that, or might have been against Thorns maybe, when Simon came into the garage, and I think I learned some hard lessons on lethal hexes with Nurgle. Stay away from them, basically. Stay away. But it is a very different style of play in that situation. I keep playing with 3 fighter warbands like I've got 7 fighters, and somebody dies, and suddenly I think, oh shit, that's a third of my warband. I can't do anything now.
I try and shy away from making one character super powerful, and that's really easy to do with the eyes. You can easily make Vortimer super powered and he goes around zapping everyone. But I did it with a few decks before Grand Clash last year, and then you just realise it's like he's basically a magic Moloch, and like it's not a very fun way to kind of play, and you're not really, in my opinion, not really playing in the spirit of the warband. You should be using everyone, even if they're really crap like Navia and Turosh. You should have some kind of plan, even if it's just to score martyred. But yeah, so I try not to do that anymore. It's just having all these upgrades for one person, and like I said, with a 3-person warband, that's very easy to do, because if you lose 2, well, you don't have a choice. There's only one guy left. You should have every upgrade under the sun.
I would love them, talking about rules changes, I would love them to implement some sort of keyword thing, and then certain keywords you can only put a certain number of types of card on your
Yeah, we were talking about this in the Patreon Discord last week, weren't they? Weren't we, rather?
I think so.
Yeah, like a maximum number of upgrades of certain types on a single fighter. Like only one.
Just because it is boring when we played one Hrothgorn game and he had like 8 upgrades on him, which it's not that interesting.
Oh, that's one. If I could make a rule change, I would say for every upgrade you put on, you've got to add an extra glory to it. Ooh. So your first one's 1 glory, second one's 2, third one's 3. I think that would be really interesting.
I like that a lot. It would also stop people from from being able to really do like tomes decks and stuff like that as well. Because you're like, oh, the first one's 1, the second one's 2, third one's 3. That's not too bad. But then 4, 5, and 6. Now we're getting into realms of almost.
Actually, with the next rotation, they almost could do that, because at the moment, if they do something like that, it will just totally. Well, they've stuffed it themselves, but they would, it would make the tomes pointless. But with that tomes rotating out, they haven't got very similar. They've lost pages, I suppose, but it wouldn't ruin anything to do something like that. I think you still get people wailing and gnashing their teeth in the eyes. Although, does it make it worse for aggro warbands, because they're the ones who really rely on upgrades, whereas objective ones.
But then generally, if you've got a more generic aggro warband, you don't tend to put more than 1 or 2 on a fighter, and before you fire them off.
It would help people like the Godsworn Hunt, I guess. Although they would suffer, because you normally need 2 upgrades on
it. Wouldn't necessarily have to be 1 glory for the first, 2 glory for the second. It could be maybe 1 glory for the first and second, 2 glory for the third and fourth, and something like that. But slightly more gradual incline, but something like that would make it. It would definitely make you have to think twice before you start ladling all of your upgrades onto one person.
But some characters just turn into absolute monsters, like Ripper. After 2 or 3 upgrades, him and his wolf just goes around and kills everything, and you're kind of like, I don't know. To me, I don't really like that style of play, but it is what it is. So.
Yeah, I think we talked about.
I agree with that. I particularly don't like that, because I have had it happen to me, but I can't ever make it happen. Ripper, I've never managed to get Ripper to turn into this kind of beast that I've heard that he could be.
Just Enderby said could do a max number of upgrades on each model. You could.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that. Obviously, it would screw up tomes or pages or whatever, but so well.
I don't think anyone missed that at all, really.
They had to screw up tomes themselves anyway, didn't they, by making them restricted?
Yeah, that's true.
I just think it would be interesting, or just if you had to distribute the upgrades a bit more, rather than just putting all eggs. You often talked about all eggs in one basket, Peter's not been a fan of it. I think it would just make the game more interesting, like we said.
Yeah, I just find it's one of those things that's a bit like with Moloch as well, in that it just polarizes the game. It just becomes a race that once you know what your opponent's doing, it's can you burn that fighter down before they get to the point where you have no hope of stopping them anymore. And for them, it's just can they keep you away from them, and that could be really one-sided for some warbands, but like Sepulchral Guard and stuff like that. If you're just beefing somebody up and keeping them in the backfield, Sepulchral Guard haven't got a hope in hell of getting near you, so they just can't do anything about it. So it just takes away a bit of that. I wouldn't say it's abuse, but it is definitely leaning on certain aspects of the game much more to get an advantage, which maybe your opponent can't do anything about.
Yeah, more ways of breaking upgrades might be another way to do it. The Grimwatch deck I've been playing with had one of those in it. It tended not to be that powerful. I think because your opponent could choose which upgrade they break, and by the time I used it in both games, you already had loads of upgrades on, so you could just choose the crappiest one.
Yeah, I'd definitely be up for something like that. Would be much more interesting. I think you're both the same, and I think it's because none of us really play too competitively, in that it's just more fun to have a warband that has all aspects of it getting involved in the game, and it's not just it's all about Moloch and that's it. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah, I loved your Despoilers deck, which was just stick a weapon upgrade on it, charge in, hope for the best.
Yeah.
It was just really good fun to play against.
That was the one I took to the Grand Clash, and it didn't do too badly. I think I could have done better in some of my earlier games, but I won the second, the third, and the fourth game. So I think I was still just I was still in that early stages of terror that you have when you go to a I have when I go to a Grand Clash anyway. So,
absolutely.
So I was going to ask another question, Andrew. Do you find that you spend so long with certain decks and certain builds that you really can start to tell when a good time is to hold them and when a good time is to fold them? When you're playing, you sit there and you think, I need to draw a card, and I'm pretty certain it's going to be one of 2 or 3 cards, and or do you find that it doesn't matter how long you play with a deck, you just don't remember what's coming up next anyway, and everything's a surprise?
Not necessarily remembering, and that's probably where Underworlds is way easier, because you can flick through your cards way quicker than like just going. If you played a physical game and just literally went through your discard pile, it would just be a bit of pain for everyone. So generally, you can't really remember. But I would say if you make a deck, I would say you need 3 games of best of 3 before you really see kind of consistent results, especially with like a 10-10 deck. Back in last year or so with crazy deck ideas of 22, 23, 24. Tim's the only exception who actually won Glass with that kind of crazy idea. Generally, because the results are so inconsistent, it's hard to know what worked and what didn't. I mean, in Tim's case, he actually won because his opponent couldn't understand what he was trying to achieve either, which is just amazing. But generally, if you're making a deck, and if you want to see certain parts work, especially if you want to do, like Method in the Madness, and you want to see if a scatter spell can effectively work, you've just got to practice it with the least amount of cards, 10-10, and see is it feasible or not. And some cards work and some work, some don't.
I've definitely, looking through the Vassal League, the previous winners just gone, I think nearly all the decks are 20 cards. I don't think there's really many, or at least in the top 10, there's no 22s or 24s in there at all now, and I think that's, I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
With Frenzied Search being restricted, I don't think you'll see 22 decks anymore.
No, I used to like 22, but I've now consistently played 20 because it just is so. It is more consistent, and I'm getting better at remembering what cards are coming. But it does. It's only when I've played the same deck a couple of times, different evenings, then you start to know. Okay, this is what's left.
I guess that's part of that's always been our curse, though. We play a different warband, a different deck every other game. You've just got no hope of remembering what it is you're doing.
And practicing in a competitive scene, I think, is important too, because at my Goblin deck, although admittedly the far list did screw it up right near the end, I did know that really well. We played enough games that I knew that really well and knew what was in it, and knew what was coming. But at the Grand Clash, I don't know, it's panic or the stress or what. I could not remember. I'd be hoping to draw into something, and it just never was what I wanted. Yeah. Famously, the number one rule was, I can't even remember what the number one rule was. It was basically if X happened, make sure you threw away your cards at the beginning. And first game, X happened, and I kept them.
5 upgrades, and you're like, actually, you know what? I'll keep them.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that bad. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was effectively that. Yeah, because I had 2 the end in the deck. So
right.
I think it might even have been under every circumstance, because there weren't so many draw cards. I think it was basically whatever you're doing, throw away the first 5 cards. And I drew them and thought, but they're quite good. I want to keep those, and I kept them. And then they weren't even that good. So it was just, it was total blind panic. That did that in the very first game.
I do. Maybe we need a whole another episode to discuss tournaments and that kind of aspect of things, but I do find
or you could just go and listen to the Steel City Shades Bar guys podcast, because they've devoted hours to it.
But I was gonna,
it'd be much more informative than ours.
I was going to approach it more from the what to do when you sit down and you completely blank and shit yourself when you meet your first opponent.
I was about to say, make sure you take a change of underwear. That'd be my...
It's more that aspect than the how to win a Grand Clash. I'm never going to be giving that advice, other than don't do what I'm doing. But maybe we need to do a show on. If
you sit down and it's this face or that face, then you're probably all right.
Exactly. Yeah. I just maybe we need to do that as a separate thing, because I find that the minute I sit down, it's possibly partly because you and I only ever play each other, Robin. So the minute I sit down across from somebody else, even when I sat down opposite that man there for my first Grand Clash game in our first Grand Clash ever, I was still shitting myself. I was still like, oh my god, what do I do? And Andrew's sitting there going, oh my god, what do I do? Like, why are we worried? It's a frigging board game. Who cares? Let's just play. But there's still that fight or flight response suddenly kicks in. And you're like, oh god.
Yeah, one of my Grand Clash games this time, my opponent Daniel, lovely fella, and but I was playing objective gits, and the first thing he did was start destroying the objectives, and I think by the end of round 1 there were only 2 left or something crazy like that. It's like, oh well, this isn't going to go very well, is
Was
it?
that with his spoiler deck?
Sorry, yeah, it was Despoilers.
The
Yeah,
guy I
and
ended
then
up coming up against.
because that's all I played, Despoilers that day, and then I thought second turn I started off with something like temporary victory and supremacy or something like that. I thought, I better get rid of these because he destroyed all the objectives really fast last time, and I ended up on 3 objectives.
Always the way.
Sod's law.
Yeah, just it was killer.
So do you find, Andrew, when you go to Grand Clashes or to tournaments, do you still like taking your off-the-wall decks, or do you sometimes sit there and think, fuck, I'm just going for the best build I can make, and I'm just actually want to have a shot for once?
He's playing the long con.
Actually, this kind of goes back into, you had an article, it feels like years now, but it was a few months back, when one of the bits was, you take a Rubbisher Warband, or you take a deck because you feel like you won't win, so you think, right, it doesn't matter if I lose because I'm bringing an inferior deck. So I think there definitely is a part of that. I mean, I think no one seriously takes the eyes and think, yeah, I've got a chance to win, unless you're delusional. So there's definitely a part of that. But then I've tried to make a Grimwatch deck like beforehand, and you think, I could go objective and I could have a better chance of winning, but is that really what I want to achieve in this kind of evening? I just want to have fun, and I don't think I'll get as much fun as if I blew someone away with Razor Moor Swarm, which is fantastic. So I think there's that kind of element, and really you should just have as much fun as you can get.
Have you been eyeing up the 5th place Eyes of the Nine deck that has been up on Underworld's DB?
I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I would be very intrigued to see it. Is that post fire list, or is that afterwards?
It's post fire list. It's got things like warning shot in there, which I know you love.
Yes, that definitely lost me a game. That was good.
It's got combination strikes in this. That's what they've used all their restricteds on all objectives. But then they've got things like aggressive strategy, which is score 5 surge cards and stuff like that. So it's an interesting deck. It's not got really. It's got a couple of the eyes cards in there. It's got deceitful step and empowered sorcery, but that's about it. And it seems like a very generic.
Good cards.
That's definitely their best cards. It's probably their only good cards.
Yeah, so
maybe Master of Magic as well.
It's interesting. It's definitely got some interesting cards in there. So
I'll have to take a look at it. I think a lot of warbands now have much better chances of winning. I mean, with that Vassal tournament, they came 5th, which is way higher than they've probably ever been. So that's good to see. Hopefully, in the future, I'll probably still take the eyes, whether the new cards come out with the warbands. Who knows? But I'll definitely take them as long as they're viable, and see where we go.
I guess it depends on how strong you want to use the word viable. Yeah,
that's true.
I did like the fact that I'm just looking through the Vassal list at the moment, and it isn't until you get to 13th place that you get a repeated warband, which is pretty cool.
That's impressive.
Wow.
It was Skaven, Thorns.
Surprise.
What's that? Is that Gits? Zarbag's Gits.
Surely the Fundrix are in there, or the
Thundrix did not
I think
make
that
a showing
Gits deck, I think,
until
is the one I'm going to take tomorrow.
Thundrix Profiteers didn't make a showing in the top 10 at all.
Oh, really?
There was Hunt, then there was Eyes, then there was the Banshees, Wormspat, Wild, the Guardians, Despoilers. 10th place was Fast Riders. So
wow, not Godsworn Hunt when you did Hunt. Was it the Wild Hunt?
No, Godsworn. Sorry, the Wild Hunt. Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, it isn't until you get to
So,
13th
Andrew,
that you then get a repeat on Ilthari's Guardians.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you think maybe people were taking more left field choices?
Because of the far list had just landed.
Well, just because they were playing on Vassal online and it wasn't really for.
Could be.
It was just for shits and giggles, for want of a better way to put it.
Poops and titters.
Yeah. We've got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Andrew? You've got the amazing forum of Agents of Sigmar, and there's literally 18 people watching.
Oh, that's not bad going at all.
I guess near 20 when you consider we're all technically watching it whilst we're on it.
I'm watching myself, so that's a bit weird, I guess. But I'd just like to say, thank you very much for bringing me on the show and for playing my decks and enjoying some of them.
Keep it up, or else we probably wouldn't have any decks to actually play sometimes. So.
Yeah, I love playing your decks. But even though I had that one unfortunate incident, I've had many a fun game playing a Marlowe deck, and I still want to make a Marlowe deck a common parlance in the Warhammer Underworld world.
Or a Marlowe.
He's Marlowe'd it.
He's Marlowe'd it. Yeah. And I think it's good.
Probably my favourite part. I'm sorry.
No, go on. Sorry.
My favourite part is sending a deck over with plenty of notes, and then the first thing Robin does is, I've just changed a couple of cards, and you're just like, oh no.
I just decided to fuck this deck right up before we start.
I've decided actually maybe not that, and you're like, oh, okay.
Do you ever find when you're watching the games that we're playing and you've got you have a very specific idea of things, you've been very specific in your notes, like don't do this, make sure you do that, and then you watch us start to play and we're like, I'm going to do completely the opposite thing of what Andrew's told me to do, and you're just
absolutely
sitting there going, idiots, just cretins.
That's definitely Robin, I think. I send him enough Gloomhaven notes and he's like, right, I've read your notes and I've forgotten them all. Great, I'm just going to do this. Just like, okay.
The thing is with the Gloomhaven, I don't play it enough. So I read your notes when you comment on them, which is normally straight after the video has gone live, and then I'm playing late at night, about 3 or 4 days later, and I'm just like, I know Andrew mentioned that, but I cannot remember what it was he said.
He said I meant to do something. Am I meant to not do it or do it? I can't remember. I think it was do it. Oh, it was not do it. Shit.
But in that game, it's so easy to forget to do the thing you need to do, because the thing I keep forgetting is playing items, and they are not the easiest things to remember, because you play the cards each turn. But in the middle of that, you have to play your item as well if you want to play it. But I just keep forgetting.
Absolutely. Probably the hardest problem is, I'm surprised how well you guys do when you play games with different warbands and different decks. Is obviously it's your first time you play it, and if it's a left field deck and it's got a particular theme to it, like the Petitioners, you've got to have them all inspired. It's not something you would normally do. So it's kind of, unless you really memorised it, you're probably thinking, why would I inspire a Petitioner, because that's clearly stupid.
Yeah.
So, but you still play them very well. So yeah, hats off to you. Really good effort.
We cock up less than we get it right more than we cock it up. I hope. Anyway.
I think so. Like you say, it's hard when there's a particular trick to it. It is hard to get that right. And they take a bit of playing Eyes of the Nine. It takes a bit of time to realise the best way to inspire Vortimus and things like that.
Yeah.
It's also because Vortimus he needs to make a ranged attack, and you would just think it's cast a spell, but it's not. It's a ranged attack, and then if you cast a spell, you go, he's inspired. No, he's not. Shit.
Exactly. So you've got to use a ranged attack, but actually you really, really don't want him anywhere near anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So he doesn't get killed.
And if he fails that ranged attack, you're like, well, he's in a position to be hit now, and they're so brittle, the Eyes of the Nine. If you make one mistake or the dice don't go your way, people just die left and right, and you're like, oh great, brilliant.
They just fold up.
Fantastic.
And the only other thing I want to say really is that the decks you make really do capture, I'd say, the ethos of what Robert and I like, in that it's more about having a fun deck with maybe some wacky cards and some crazy little shenanigans going on. It's not about just having a deck that is the best collection of cards. It is more about having a fun game than just winning a game, and both are obviously valid aspects, but
it's about being. I love that it's inventive with the game rather than ruthless.
Ruthless is, if you go too ruthless, it's a very kind of negative play experience for your opponent.
Yeah, it can.
And that's why it's great that Tim not only won with the Orcs, which is quite amazing in itself, but he did it in such a spirit of the warband way in one glass. I mean, it's great to make a deck and you think, this isn't the spirit of the warband, but is it okay? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But he actually won glass, so hats off to him for that. It's fantastic.
I think if you play Oryx, then it's almost always in the spirit of the warband.
Yeah, I don't think you can play them.
And it's almost
well.
never ruthless. I mean, it can feel like that way if all the cards and dice go right for you, but it basically is just such almost like joyous carnage it's a fun way to play.
Absolutely.
So I think it's probably time for us to say good night to everybody. It is 11:30 now. I can't believe we've managed to prattle on we always manage to prattle on, so I don't know why I'm surprised by this.
Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thanks for everyone for listening.
About 20. But yeah, we hopefully when lockdown is finished and the game starts to lift. I think it's in a bit of a slump at the moment. It'll be good to get hopefully more people come in and watch us.
New warbands. We need new warbands out.
Yeah.
That's what we need. So thank you for coming on the channel, joining us, Andrew, this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was great fun. Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have you back again at some point, and we'll certainly be featuring your decks, not before too long, I should expect.
Probably tomorrow.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again. It was good fun. I hope everyone enjoyed it. But yeah.
Brilliant.
Hopefully see you more in the future.
Everyone stay safe and healthy at home, and we'll see you soon in the Beast Grave.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.